So I did receive some good feedback on the previous videos I made on Metronome and Metronome/Vesper. So if you didn't watch these videos and you wanna, learn about new opportunities to earn actual yield from actual DeFi protocols, I'm gonna link both of these videos in the description below. Check them out, all right? This one, ExtraFI, is also on the lines of whatever I just discussed. It's a very interesting platform. It leverages industry-leading DEXs and it has good opportunities. So today we're going to talk about what the process is about, of course highlight the risks because there are always risks, and also mention some technicalities. ExtraFI has been live for some time now, so it has been used, it has been battle tested, and like I said, it's built on industry leading DEXs. All right, so the basic concept, if you want to understand how this works, first of all, just a term that they use because they identify the platform as something they call leverage yield farming. Now, of course, most people are familiar with the term yield farm, whereas you deposit the liquidity, a pool token, and then you earn a paper token which you can sell for profits or do other stuff with, okay, depending on the platform and how it operates. So leverage yield farming is, if you're familiar with the term leverage, is where, for example, you can take on a position, either be it long or short on a specific asset, and if you can add more by lending and borrowing on the asset that you wanna, leverage. All right. So the basic concept, here it is. You go on the platform right now and you will look, there are several pairs. All right. So there are several pairs if you scroll down on Optimism or on Base because it operates on both right now. So what you do is you choose the pair you wanna farm in. Then you click on it and then you open a position. What this means is that you are providing collateral in one of the pairs or both. So you can leverage both, or you can just, let's take the simple example of ETH USDC. If I want to enter this pair and farm in it, I can just deposit USDC. The rest will be done in the background. All right. So I put my USDC and then I set up my leverage loop. So it starts from 1, of course, means that I am at 1x. But I can go all the way to 7x. That's what the platform, allows you to do. But there's a small catch. We'll get to it later. For the sake of just explaining the simple concept, let's use a 3x leverage. What this means is that if I deposit, let's say 1,000 USDC to enter ETH USDC, the platform will then borrow 2x the amount I deposited to bring me to a 3x in terms of whatever I have. So that 1,000 will become 3,000 in the background. I didn't put 2k, it borrowed from the lending pools and it added 2k to my balance. Then it adjusts the pair based on how, for example, if I'm Optimism, how Velodrome adjusts this pair. And then it takes this pair and it takes it on Velodrome. So far, the idea is that instead of having 1,000 farming on Velodrome, I now have 3,000 worth of ETH USDC farming there. So in theory, I'm getting 3 times as much the APR, all right? Whereas if I would be farming with just 1,000 directly on Velodrome. So what the protocol does is that it takes all the rewards, it then takes them all, converts them all the way to the LP pair, so the nature of the assets that I added, inside the pool, and then it adds up this LP on top of what I have. All right, so meaning my equity yield is increasing. And the interesting part here is that because this is increasing, inherently I'm gonna get eventually more, but that extra percentage will be taken by the protocol itself. But that's not something you need to be concerned about with. All you need to understand is that instead of earning the base APR with leverage 3x, I'm earning 3 times as much. All right, that's the basic idea. Now keep in mind that the higher the leverage, the more risk you're taking. You have 2, assets combined. So keep in mind that there's a health factor here. So whenever you increase that leverage scale, keep in mind that there is a liquidation ratio between these two assets. If reached, or if it goes below, then you're gonna get liquidated. Here's the thing. You can also choose if you want to go long, short, or neutral. Now, the neutral option usually is available for stable pairs. So all the other way around is available for others. In general, when you put more of an appreciating asset, you're going long without even, choosing to go long. Because if you think about it, if I enter ETH USDC with, let's say, leverage 3x, so 3 times the capital, and the price of USDC appreciates, I'm gonna get more at the end of it. And the other way around, if ETH depreciates, I'll get less. And here's the risk in this, because if ETH goes too low, I can get liquidated. So if you don't want to take a high risk, better keep the leverage position in a certain, risk scale. All right, so just keep in mind. And that's how the basic concept works. All right, so you are technically farming more with less capital. And if you recall, if you watch my smart farming video, kinda, dances along the line with something similar. You are borrowing more with the same amount that you have, because you're technically taking a yield-bearing asset. Then, borrowing more, exchanging for USDC, and then also taking that asset again, minting it, so on and so forth. If you recall that video, again, link in the description, please check it out. It's very interesting. So it kinda, goes a long way. So at the end of it, if I want to look at ExtraFI and what it offers, because that's the basic concept and what people are looking for. So basically the yield, so the leverage yield farming product, there's that, of course, where you deposit, you farm, and then you can withdraw your capital anytime, and the money you make is within the LP. Like I said, your equity LP increases, you don't earn rewards. You can also lend your capital. So because, when I leverage yield farm, I need to borrow from the lending pools. There are people who are lending and earning fees on that. So there's that. When people basically lend their capital, they also earn a portion on the amount they lend. So you can do that. You usually earn from the native asset that you provided if you want to lend, and you can also earn some extra tokens because they do have their native asset called extra. All right, and you can take that extra and you can stake it. You can lock it, you can earn extra APY, and having extra locked will allow you to leverage more on certain pools. All right, so that's also an option that they provided, and there's always things to be added as well. All right, now that brings me to the last part of the video, where I want to discuss a few things that you should be aware of. First things first, I do repeat this in every similar video, is that APY or APR varies. So variation always depends on the total value locked within a pool. It depends on how much, all right, is the bribes that were given to Velodrome, for example, because that APR depends on that. It's built on top, so there's that. And of course the Velodrome price action, so the token Velo, when it's dropping, usually the APRs drop up until the next epoch, where they can push up their APRs if they're bribed significantly. All right, so keep that in mind. Now, again, always understand that if you go high up on leverage, the higher you get, the narrower the liquidity price ratio becomes. On a stable pair, by the way, you can go as high as 90% of one asset versus the next. Let's say I'm talking about USDC DAI, for example. That doesn't exist, by the way, I'm just taking an example. If I go, let's say, to the highest leverage possible on that pair, I see one DAI equals, let's say, 0.9 USDC. If that were to happen, I would get liquidated, and below, of course. On normal pairs, so volatile assets, it's up to 83.3%. So it's like $1 worth of 83 cents of the other asset, something like this. But of course, each pair will have, its varieties overall. And the risks, liquidation, because of what I just mentioned, of course, and oracle disruptions. Those are things you cannot avoid if you don't have good oracles that are feeding you actual prices. All right, so keep that in mind. And before you go ahead and think that this is the holy grail of yield farming in general, and that's it, keep in mind that the lending pools could be also attractive, because If there's too much demand of a certain asset, then there is, higher APR given for lending capital to that specific asset. So monitor these, because sometimes you can find really good APRs. Now keep in mind, because of high volatility, those APRs could, skyrocket one day and then drop dead the next. That's also a risk you have to take. But, with a specific amount of capital, if you have much you want to put in, then you can, take advantage of those high swings, move it around, so to speak, if you're doing stable coins, of course. And like I said, the ExtraFI is on Base. So like they use Velodrome on Optimism, they also use Aerodrome, so a similar DEX, like a carbon copy basically on Base. The same concept, different pools, different APYs, so on and so forth. Alright, so I really hope you got the idea. And one more thing I want to say is that because you are technically, when you are leverage yield farming, technically you're borrowing funds as well from within the backend, so there's some interest to be paid, but you don't have to worry about this because this is paid by the protocol anyways. Alright, so means at the end of the day it will show you your net profit and not your gross profit without the fees that you're gonna pay. So once you decide to exit, it will net everything. It will give you what you have profited plus of course your capital, and it will give back the borrowed assets to the protocol, to the lending pools. With that, I will end it here. I really hope I brought you some value. Again, any question, feel free to reach out on Telegram or on the comments, whatever, doesn't matter. I'm gonna answer them all, okay? And we do have a very cool Telegram room, so if you're not part of it, consider joining. We discuss lots of real DeFi opportunities like this one. We also talk about degen stuff. The room is filled with like-minded, matured individuals, and everything is permitted, so you can speak your mind as long as it's within the realm of respect, of course. All right, that's very important. So keep that in mind. Join us. We're a cool, we're a cool room. You're gonna have fun. You're not gonna regret it. All right. With that, see you in the next one. Have a good one.